When the night falls, when the shadows grow deep, dark and black, the silent pall of evil settles upon the earth. Who dares to search? Who dares to see what walks in the night? If you dare, welcome to the nightmare of the Grot to Orloff show. It's August 2nd, 2022 in the year of our Lord, and we're still going over Gold Key comics, man, and camera keeps shutting itself off, man. I just don't have enough memory on this phone. So, with that said, having said that, it is what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to use every cliche that idiots use, including me. Having said that, make sure you drink Up Yours water, man. You like it, it hates you. Up Yours water, sold at finer stores near you. Okay, so we're going through Gold Key Comics Box 3 here in this fine summer afternoon. Nancy Pelosi has landed in Taiwan, and we're all waiting to see what happens. Let's see. We were about to look at this comic here when we last left off. Okay, in 1963, Gold Key Comics started a comic called The Space Family Robinson. This is from March of 63. And this is issue number... What is it? This is the second issue, ladies and gentlemen. The second issue. These beautiful painted covers. I believe the artist's name is George Wilson. And they would give you the whole beautiful entire painting. The modern idiots, the fucking assholes that buy comics today, they like to get comics without the logo. And they call them virgin covers, you know. Fucking. Because they fucking scum. But anyway, I just call it the whole painting. I'm not going to call it a virgin cover. Fuck you. And this isn't in perfect condition. Look, it's been chewed at the edge. I hope that offends you fuckers that want only 9.8 condition comics. I'd like to have this in 9.8 condition comics, but it's from the fucking Kennedy administration, so it's not in perfect shape, but it's perfectly okay to read. There's the mother in Space Family Robinson, and look, it's called Space Family Robinson, Lost in Space. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? And she looks a little bit like Penny, but she's not Penny. And this kid has blonde hair. He's not a redhead. He's not. And but anyway, it kind of looks like they have a little shuttlecraft. They're actually lost on this little space station. It has like a hydroponic dome where they grow food and stuff. Well, anyway, 63 they create this. You know. I don't think the TV show didn't start till like 65. So, Gold Key is publishing this comic. It's, you know, of course, there was the famous novel Swiss Family Robinson. And then all of a sudden, Irwin Allen has a TV show called Space Family Robinson. And they think, well, you know, gosh, we have a comic called Space Family Robinson, and now they have a TV show called Lost in Space with a family called Robinson. And they think, well, you know, gosh, should we sue? And then they think, well, we're already doing an Irwin Allen comic book, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. If we're making money on that, do we really want to sue him? So I guess they talked to Irwin Allen and they worked out a deal where I guess maybe Irwin Allen gave them some money and they were allowed to, later on in the run of the comic, they put Space Family Robinson Lost in Space in big letters. But anyway, now you could just say, Swiss Family Robinson, famous novel, had been turned into a movie from Disney. It's not too hard to think that two different entities could have come up with the idea of, let's just change Swiss to space, and they're lost in space instead of lost on a desert island. But the fact is, since Gold Key was doing the Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea comic, I think that Irwin Allen had been exposed to Gold Key comics, and therefore, more than likely, he had seen these comics. Now, this doesn't have the robot, it doesn't have Dr. Smith, it doesn't have Major West, and their names are all different, but it's still the same basic premise. But anyway, so this comic was continually published into the 70s, and all it did was, and then of course later Irwin Allen shows like The Time Tunnel and Land of the Giants were adapted straight from the TV shows to these Gold Key comics. But the thing is, this was always confusing to kids, at least to me a little bit, when I realized, okay, this is not exactly the TV show, So when I was picking these comics up in 1973 or 74, when I was first exposed to Lost in Space, when it was syndicated and shown afternoons on local San Antonio television, but I bought the comics, but I just thought, well, this is weird. Why is it different? Well, I didn't really know, but now I kind of do know. It's just one of those weird things. So I'm sorry, this is from April of '64. Here we have July of '65. And another beautiful cover. Let's see. Yeah, they still had the paintings on the back covers, but by this time they didn't anymore. They had ads on the back. Someday I'll get these all bagged and boarded. Right now, these are times of little bread. And did I just show you this one? I think I did. August '64. Maybe I didn't. Looks like these are out of order. That's more. It's just the paintings on the cover were so great. That's odd that in August of '64 it says still only 12 cents. It looks like in '64 they were thinking about raising the price, because it says still only 12 cents on both of these, which would have been weird because no one else in the comics industry went up to 15 cents until '68. And see, in this issue, which is '65, July '65, it's just back to 12 cents. They must have realized that would have been folly to be the only company that jumped up to 15 cents. Here's February of '68. And the way I'm telling this, again, this is Graphic Man's trick that he learned, is you look at the last three digits, it says 802. 802, that would be 1968. 02 is February. I know it's 1968 because it's still 12 cents. Very last of the 12 cents. They went up to 15 cents soon after. This is out of order. This is a 12-cent comic. It's October of 1966. Beautiful cover. 200 World War II soldiers, two armies, the Americans and the Germans. These ads were all over comics back then. This is a more uncommon ad. This is not the normal ad you see. Isn't that great? Sounds like an ad for that. There's some Sylvester Stallone, either movie or TV show, apparently coming on streaming, where he's a retired superhero. So he's trying to get into the superhero game too. I don't know if that'll be any good or not. Okay, so this is 66, 66. Okay, now we're up to February of 67. I don't have a lot of these comics. I wish I had more, you know. I love this ad. 100 toy soldiers, $1.25. Not many of these ads do they actually show the soldiers. And if you look carefully, you can see the soldiers are not three-dimensional, they're flat. So and it comes in this Foot Locker, but what they don't tell you, and you don't really you know, that this is actual size. No, just kidding. No, the Foot Locker is probably just about this big. It's very small. It's not like a big giant G.I. Joe Foot Locker or your dad's Foot Locker from World War II or Korea, which is what, you know, you got to put yourself in the time period, you know, their dads would have been in Korea or Vietnam. I'm sorry, or World War II. This is the first one I bought as a kid in July of '74, and at that point I was watching the Lost in Space show on television, and I think Space Family Robinson or Lost in Space stopped publishing in '69 and then came back. I mean, there was a slight cease in publication, and when they came back, for some reason it says Lost in Space on Space Station 1. I think at that point Lost in Space was off the air, and they were trying to distance themselves a little bit from the series just so kids wouldn't be so weirded out that this is clearly not the TV show. Hyperspace, where Tim and Tam fight to survive while they shrink in size. So they were Tim and Tam instead of Will and Penny. And then, of course, there were three kids in Lost in Space. There was also Judy. And this is also a childhood copy. All those earlier Space Family Robinsons were bought at a later date because some of those are actually before I was born, or, you know, when I was learning to walk, you know, so. Here is October of '65. Out of order. That's what it felt like today. This, it's all Putin's fault, man. The summer is hot now. August 2nd was never hot before. I never could remember it being hot in early August until that Putin came along. And he brought our gas prices up, and he's turning kids transgender, and he came up with the idea of pronouns. What a horrible man. Okay, we just looked at that. I think I'm going mad here and showing you the same books over and over again. No, I'm not. Here's 67. I've been mad. Going mad. That's ridiculous. 67. October of 67. It's issue 24. I know that because I put 24 there. How about that? Giant Moloch. This is the god that Hillary Clinton worships. She sacrifices chickens to that god. It still didn't make her president. Okay. Yeah, they're finding all kinds of weird ancient civilizations as they're lost in space. Look at that. You know, someday someone needs to really appreciate, I don't know how many, I think the guy's name is George Wilson that painted a lot of these covers, but he can't have painted all the gold key covers. I don't know. I want to know more about the paintings on the cover of Gold Key Comics, and whether or not, you know, how many of these paintings still survive. Someday people will appreciate them. Possibly not. I don't think the TikTok generation's ever going to appreciate comics. Now, comics, I don't know. We may be the last people to collect these old comics. I don't know. It seems like the kids of today, they don't give a shit. They'd rather have virtual reality goggles on and just escape from the reality of their ridiculous existence. They've been, and I don't know if it's even their fault. They've really been Generation Z, if that's what you call them. They've really been messed with. This is April of '76. So yeah, how about that? That was this was 1969. I got these things out of order. So how are you guys doing this fine August 2nd? The fuck is it? Tuesday afternoon. So tomorrow's the big Four Color Fossils show on the Graphic Man channel. This is from July of 1981, a much more recent comic. This painting is not done by the same artist. It's a little wonky. It almost looks like it might have been repainted. Like, see how that her face just doesn't look right? And no, everything looks a little wonky. Like that painting of Jesus that was like some priceless painting of Jesus. It was like 500 years old, and some little old lady just was upset that it was in bad shape, and she took it upon herself to paint over it, to fix it, because paint was chipping off of it. And she completely ruined it. He wound up looking like an orangutan. You know what I'm talking about? Look that up. Google that. And see if you can't find it. Just type in woman, old lady repaints Jesus, and you'll see what I'm talking about, how horrifying that is. Okay, so this is January of 74. That means it came out in November of 73. And it's got your toy catalog, toy advertisements, 16 pages of free advertisements. So you'll know what to bug your parents for Christmas of 74. And by this point, and this is May of 82. Once you get into the 80s, you don't see many of these Gold Key comics. Here they're spraying mayonnaise on a Cyclops ape. And you see it says Whitman because this is clearly sold in a 3-pack. Okay, so that's my astounding collection of Space Family Robinson. Space Family Robinson. Now here is a reprint of Spaceman. This is a great cover. It's from Dell. It's a beautiful cover. I believe this to be a reprint because this is from October of 72. And this clearly looks like it's probably from around 1962, and that is not 1970s. This is a much more wonderful depiction of what astronauts will look like than the 70s would have given you. Okay, so Walter Lantz Space Mouse. I have pictures in the family album of my 2 older brothers who were born 10 years before me, And my brother Mike is holding a copy of Space Mouse. It might have been this issue. I can go back and look. There weren't that many issues of Space Mouse. And Space Mouse is a Walter Lantz creation, although my research is making me wonder if there ever were actually any animated Space Mouse cartoons. I'm not able to. I think it just the design was created by Walter Lantz, and that this was never actually an animated cartoon. I could be wrong. I should ask Howard G.R. Howard G.R., the original owner of this comic. He might know about Space Mouse. This is from February '63, and this Dell. Okay, so it went from Dell to Gold Key, and this Dell one. Oh, I like this. I like depictions of female animals. This is from 1960. This is probably the one he was holding in that photo. Here's another Space Mouse. Dr. Spectre presents spine-tingling tales. Now, this artwork is not as good as these painted covers. This is about a mermaid. Yes, indeed. These, my childhood wagon. My older brother, one of them, put 2 of these flaming skulls with bullet holes in their head on the back, kind of like tail lights on that wagon. It's still, you can still see the traces of those water decals on the back of my childhood wagon out in the garage. Okay, well, Gold Key got the Star Trek rights, and this is from September of 1970. This is after the show was already off the air. I would be remiss to not mention that Lieutenant Uhura Nichelle Nichols passed away, I think the day before yesterday. This one is this one's from 1971. So at this point, the show was off the air. Where we were living in 1971, we were living in Germany, in Heidelberg, and it was being aired on Saturday night, Star Trek on Armed Forces television. And my brother was like a senior in high school. I was, just starting kindergarten, and he would bring his best friend would come over on Saturday nights because not everybody had a TV antenna, and they would watch Star Trek. And I remember that thinking, that's cool that these older guys are enjoying this show. But I didn't really get into it until a few years later. That was about 71 or so, 72. But when we moved to Virginia. Star Trek didn't play there, and then we moved to San Antonio in '73. And I think during 3rd grade, they started airing Star Trek right about the time that the cartoon was on Saturday morning. And the first episode I watched and actually paid attention to, unlike when I was a little kid, was The Devil in the Dark. And I was hooked on that show and loved it. And they would show Star Trek pretty much all the way through this whole series every day when you came home from school, 3rd and 4th grade, and then they would switch over to Lost in Space, and then they would switch back to Star Trek, and kids at my elementary school, Regency Place, would argue about which is better, Star Trek or Lost in Space. I loved Lost in Space, but it was it fell victim to goofiness and campiness, because they were on against Batman. Lost in Space, the first season was more of a straight action adventure show when it was in black and white. In the second season, when it was in color, it became real silly, and Dr. Smith kind of became the main character. September of '74, which really stuck in the. It really bothered Zorro, who was the father on the show, because he thought he was the hero of the show. You know, he'd been Zorro. And Don Williams, right? Yeah, he was relegated more to being kind of in the background, the dad, and then Will, the young red-headed son, was always being babysat by this crazy lunatic terrorist that had caused them to get lost in space, and they have a robot there to chaperone, but I wouldn't let my kid be babysat by this weird, effeminate crybaby of a man. The whole family loves Snoopy. Yeah, I was really annoyed by Dr. Smith, and then years later, when I met a good friend of mine in the 1980s, he said, "No, Dr. Smith was my favorite character." And I'm thinking, well, what are you talking about? And he said he just loved the fact that he was always complaining about his back hurting to get out of work. He just loved his laziness. And I thought, well, you love that? Why do you love negative characteristics about people? I don't know. I always loved this painting. Yeoman Rand, I assume that's Yeoman Rand. She was, in the first season, Yeoman Rand was intended to be kind of the girlfriend of Kirk. She was basically going to be like Miss Kitty to, yes, Drew, what do you need? Drew the dog is here to talk to us. She was basically going to be the Miss Kitty, you know, like in Gunsmoke. But she left after the first season. I think she was having trouble with drugs. I could be wrong. I don't want to slander her, but I think something happened where she just disappeared off the Enterprise. You know, they try to do new Star Treks, and they're all woke and shitty. And why, if they could just make, you know, with all the money they've got, why can't they just do a Star Trek that looks like this? That would be amazing. Incredible. Fantastic. We're up to May of '76. I don't think I've been reading to you the months and years on these comics. So what are you guys doing on this fine, beautiful day? Yeah, man, imagine if, this is July of '76, imagine if there was a new Star Trek show and it looked like this, like Kirk fighting this creature. And look at that spacecraft there. Really cool. Wait, didn't we just see this one? I must have doubles of this. Doubles. That's what we used to call it in the '70s, when you'd have multiple copies of oh shit, don't do that, Drew. Drew, no, that is not for you, man. How dare you. This cover is not as spectacular. You know, whoever this artist was, his art looked more like what you'd see on the side of a van, or you know, looks more like graffiti art or something. I'm not that fond of that. But this is my one of my favorite things I got Christmas of '75 was the $6 Million Man doll, which now they call action figures. This is from November of '75, so right before Christmas. Oh, I hated that, man. I watched Star Trek every day when I came home from school in 3rd and 4th grade. Then 5th grade, we moved to Fort Lewis, Washington, right? And so we're living in Tacoma, and there was no Star Trek on the air. They had Outer Limits and Twilight Zone, though, so I got to see those. Space 1999 was premiering at that time. But I thought, I'm missing Star Trek. And then there was a commercial, Star Trek's coming back here to Seattle. Great. And it was on at 10:30 at night on Saturday night. I wasn't allowed to stay up that late on at all, even on a weekend. And you know, I'm amazed. All these students I taught over the years, their parents had no bedtime. They could stay up till 3 in the morning on a school night. But yeah, my mother had very strict bedtime of like 9 or 10. I don't remember what it was. This has been drawn on. I didn't notice that when I bought it. This is February 71. So I wasn't able to see Star Trek. It was on, but I couldn't watch it. And you know, that was around 75. I wasn't aware that was when Saturday Night Live was starting. The first episodes, which I couldn't see that anyway. I was upset that I wasn't able to stay up late to see Star Trek. Little did I know that was the beginning, the genesis of the first few years that were wonderful of Saturday Night Live. Drew is wanting to eat, so we're going to feed Drew, the dog. She's licking her lips. So come along with me if you dare. We'll feed the dog. Okay, Drew, here's your wonderful little snack. Shit. I've got dog food slime on my hands. I've got to wash that off before I handle these priceless comic books. Anyway, tomorrow night at 7 o'clock Central on the Graphic Man channel, you'll see lots of scholars of comic book history appearing, and they'll be showing comic books from their collection. It happens every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Central Time. Look up the Graphic Man channel. If you want to find Graphic Man, type in Graphic Man comic books to the YouTube search engine. If you type in just Graphic Man, you may get like Graphic Man run over by car, you know, and Graphic Man stabbed by police or something. But you want Graphic Man comic books, so you don't want like Hunter Biden or something, you know, running around naked or something. Because that would be Graphic Man snorting crack while naked. You don't want that. You want Graphic Man, the comic book authority from Missouri. Okay. So, it's getting hot in here, man. It's getting hot in here, man. Climate change is an existential threat to our democracy. Whenever they say it's an existential threat to our democracy, whenever they just use the term democracy, you know that they're assholes, because we live in a republic, not a democracy. But, you know, 30 cents, man. Imagine when comics cost 30 cents. This is the 70s. How about that? That's number 40. This is number 47. 47. And here's the wonderful ancient Greek deities. Gee, seems like that had been done before in the TV show. Those of you that are, you know what I mean, the Cyclops from the Odyssey. You know, if you know Star Trek, you know they met Apollo, and it turned out the Greek gods were from outer space, and they, when man stopped worshiping them, they kind of just died off. But Apollo was still there waiting for man to reach the stars, and they kind of just laughed him off, and he just kind of died off. But in this exciting issue of the comic book, they beat a bunch of the Greek gods that episode seemed to imply were all dead. Here's Star Trek something. They're meeting Professor Whipple. Not the guy that told you not to squeeze the Charmin, Mr. Whipple. That was a different guy. So they got spaceships they've created for this comic. This girl I used to know, her mom dated Mr. Whipple. That's got to be embarrassing. How about that, man? I wonder if I'll be able to show all the Gold Key comics before this episode just stops, because this phone has very little memory. To err is Vulcan. He's fucked up. Look, they're all so pissed at him, man. They're like social justice warriors. They're mad. You didn't use the right pronouns. I don't understand these pronouns. It is not logical. I'm so pissed at you. See, the 70s were a terrible time with these horribly, poorly drawn ads. Look at all this shit. Starsky and Hutch. I guess Sean Cassidy. Whatever, dude. Here's it's Star Trek, man, and you can buy Sea Monkeys. We may be nearing the end of my Star Trek collection, because now we're to the Dynabrite comics that were printed on this Dynabrite. They're printed on they had cardboard covers and super white pages, better quality, and then I guess the ink is supposed to be super bright. That was one of their things they did to try to sell. Actually, what it really was is they could put these comic books not in places where they don't normally sell comics, next to coloring books and toy stores and stores that don't normally stock comic books. They were able to get these books in there. So it's one of Whitman's ploys. There was a great TV show, Fireball XL5, Jerry Anderson puppet marionette show like Thunderbirds, but this is the wonderful, God, that cover is so great. Here they're not puppets, they look more like real people, and that robot was great. He's got a fantastic theme song as well. Steve Zodiac and the Fireball XL5, and this is from January of '64, which means if it's January of '64, that means this was on the spinner racks when John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. Not by Lee Harvey Oswald. Here's The Sword and the Dragon. If you're into Thor comics, if you like mythology, this is a great movie to watch. It's Russian mythology. It's fantastic. It's great. I'm telling you, it's really good. I think several people have this movie up on YouTube. I don't think, unless someone's put up a better print, they're not really good prints. You need to find a really good widescreen print of this and watch it. I mean, it really is fun, and it's all the fun of mythology. All right, so here's Dell Tarzan. See, I've got my Dell and Gold Key all together here. I'm going through all these again. I showed all of this stuff yesterday, and I filmed an episode where all of this stuff was shown, And unfortunately, there was a problem with the episode, and I'm refilming. I'm going through all these again. So I have a bit of a feeling of deja vu here. But it's okay, it's great to look at these comics more than once. But I'm remembering things I said the first time spontaneously, and I just feel like, should I make the same jokes again? It's gonna be... Okay, where am I at? Tarzan. How did Rudy Kazidi get in the middle of Tarzan? What? Oh, I see what happened. Tarzan. Oh, I see what happened. Okay, this cover is so great that I blew it up and made a poster out of it. That's Dell. And then Tarzan switched over to Gold Key, and this is from August of '65. And by this point, February of '67, there was a TV show on the air, I think on NBC, maybe it was ABC, I don't know, it was on the network with Ron Ely playing Tarzan. Ron Ely, who would later play Doc Savage in the first of projected series of films, but it didn't work out. That's April '68. Gold Key Collector's Edition. Look at that. You got to really look to see the wonderful good girl art there. There's Law of Opar. Beautiful cover. So they're adapting the Jewels of Opar here. They're adapting the novels, Edgar Rice Burroughs novels. The whole calling it a collector's edition. Gold Key was aware there were comic collectors out there, and they were trying to market to those guys. And you might say, well, why are you saying guys? Couldn't they be girls? No. Comic collectors were not girls, traditionally. I mean, there are some today, more so today than, but girls read comics back then, but I don't know if they amassed collections of them. There were romance comics and Harvey comics that girls read, but damn, that's a great cover.
You know, as crazy as it sounds, I just don't blow the dust off my own.
Another one of those great ads. Oh boy, that's fantastic. Seeing Tarzan fire a gun like that, just wonderful. This is from May of '67. This looks like August of 1970. Now, within about a year, maybe a little more than a year, Tarzan would switch over to DC. This is Tarzan number 195 from August of '70. And of course, over at DC, there would be this wonderful Joe Kubert art. These paintings, though, are so fantastic. That's another one I made a poster out of. It's August of '68. These are not in order. October of '67. Now, traditionally, I was able to get these comics pretty cheaply because there weren't many people collecting them. A lot of comic stores would never even put these out in the boxes for people to buy. They'd buy collections, and if there were Gold Key or Harvey comics, they'd just kind of they'd throw it in the back room, Or possibly, if they were Philistines enough, they'd just throw it in the dumpster because they figured the comics that people wanted were Marvel and secondarily DC. And they would just wouldn't give these comics a chance to. But shit. I don't know if I've shown you these. This is a 1965 one. If I've already shown you these, well, then you're seeing them. Yeah, I did show you these. Did you see this cool one where he's fighting a caveman falling off a cliff? Did I show you that? I didn't show you that, did I? I don't know. Yeah, I did show you that. Did I show you this one? I don't think so. Most wanted Tarzan comic of all time. By special request, we bring you the adaptation of Tarzan's first Tarzan story, Tarzan of the Apes. So, I don't know what I've shown you. I'm getting confused. I'm getting punch drunk here. Okay, so these were shown. So those go back in the box. Did I show you these? Yes, I think so. Yes. If I didn't show you, did I show you this? If I didn't, I got to show it to you again. It's so great. That one I need to make a poster of too. Okay. 3 stitches, TH. Okay, so here's Del, THE Cat. It's a TV show with Robert Loggia. Everyone loves the show that remembers it, but not many people remember it. Here's a comic called 13, going on 18. The only thing simple about my wedding will be the groom. And then I have 2 copies. I have this filed not under R for Rudy, but for 3D Del. So I have it filed under TH. So it's Rudy Kazootie, a Howdy Doody style puppet show from the 50s. I got 2 copies. Do they have the glasses? It would appear not. But you can use any 3D glasses that have the red and blue plastic. Here's my childhood copy. This is one of the first comics I ever bought. It's the Three Stooges. It's got 2 of the real Stooges and this fake Stooge. Never liked this guy, Joe Besser. But a cool ghoul. And this was a Whitman. But then I later got this one at Duncanville, which is a slight upgrade. And now I know that it was from March of 72. So March of 72 means I was finishing first grade. And here's an Irwin Allen official adaptation. Unlike that Lost in Space, this one, the characters look like the actors in the show, and it is actually based on the show instead of a show based on their comic book. Now this top comics were giveaways. I don't know, in shoe stores, someone may be able to fill that in. Like someone's tried to fill in the white on Mickey and Minnie's face. Like they filled it in. But see, there's no price tag. These were given away. So that's top comics starring Mickey Mouse. Here's top comics featuring my beloved little monsters. So, and here's one of the top comics featuring Yogi Bear. And then not top comics, but this is Hanna-Barbera's Top Cat, which is one of the greatest cartoons ever. This cartoon was a mild hit in the United States, but in Mexico, dubbed into Spanish, this was a huge hit. I mean, huge. I mean, it's to the point where there are Mexican-made animated feature films of Top Cat. In Mexico, he's known as Don Gato, I believe, which I think means boss cat. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm going to open this up just out of curiosity. Yeah, it's got an ad on the back. But I think it's just a regular issue of the little monsters. Yeah, where you could draw your own monster and send it in and they'd publish it. And maybe the Top Comics Little Monsters #1. So I guess, and this is from for a year, copyright 1967. Maybe Little Monsters were you know, I don't know exactly why this is a Munsters imitation, but Gold Key did a Munsters comic, so I think maybe they were doing this. They started this comic because it seems like they didn't start the Munsters right away. I don't know, but this was published simultaneously along with the Munsters. Top Cat. All right, we're moving into the Twilight Zone. This is November of '73. This is a childhood copy. This is a great image here. I probably should use that as the thumbnail for this episode. Yeah, these are Twilight Zone. They're never going to be as clever as the plots that, you know, Rod Serling came up with, and this one's not painted. Although it's quite a wonderful cover, it just suffers in comparison to the ones that are painted. This one is a duplicate copy. And it's from March '75. I think Rod Serling either died in '74 or '75. Of course, the comic kept going after his death. This is from '76. And I've got duplicates of that. And here's from July of '76. One of these had a story where these people were living on a planet where the sun was going out, and it turned out at the end that their sun was just like a light bulb in some kid's room. You know, it's like, so, I don't know. It's my recollection. 8/76, August '76. But I've slept since then. I've slept since the 1970s a few times. Not much. That's why these bags under my eyes, man. I need to get more sleep. Blood-curdling vampire bat. It's only $1, man. I wish that you could go into Family Dollar and find things like that now. Of course you can't. I did notice yesterday I was in Dollar General and they're already putting the Halloween candy up. This artist, whoever he is, that looks like lowrider art. It looks like the art on the side of a van or on the side of a, painted on the brick wall on the side of a building in a neighborhood that, you know, you'll get your guts cut out if you go into. Not, but I still bought the comic, but I bought it because I love the Twilight Zone. And you didn't see these Twilight Zone comics that often. I mean, Gold Key, they were a little bit hard to find in this time period. Here they're doing a photo collage. You know, Jack Kirby kind of pioneered that, where he cut out things, or he made model kits and took photographs of them and, you know, like put model kit parts together to create something original and photographed it and then used that in the background of Fantastic Four page or something. But this artist is doing it in a very shitty way, you know. Photograph of this and all this crummy line drawing. I mean, it's not terrible, but it just suffers in comparison. Here's all the patches you could get. Help, I need lovin'. You got your Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. You got everything, man. Rolling Stones Tongue. Oh my gosh. I could go for a Subway sandwich right now, ladies and gentlemen. The fuck? Is this another copy of that same? It would appear so. I need to move quickly. Here's September of '76. That's pretty cool. See, this is you can see how it changes Whitman versus Gold Key. And then there was this comic, UFO Flying Saucers. Well, I'm hearing that people that run food banks are saying, well, this is it. We don't have any more food. Just word to the wise and to myself as well. We need to stock up on food because I don't know what's being planned over the next couple of months, but I think that there are people up to no good. May of '76. I mean, they're gonna stir up some kind of deviltries between now and November because they know they're gonna lose the elections in November, and so they're gonna do something bad. And I don't know, it could happen later today with all this, or tomorrow with this Nancy Pelosi shit. Okay, so that was UFO, and then there was a comic called UFO in Outer Space. That's an unusual cover. It reprinted those. It reprinted, I think, some of those UFO flying saucers. I don't know. Maybe it was original. This is a really nice cover. But yeah, it's reprinting because see, it says up here on the splash page, UFO flying saucers. I think they started the numbering over again with UFO in outer space. I think that by putting UFO and outer space, it broadened it so they can do any kind of space thing because Star Wars had come out, and I don't know what they were thinking. Honestly, I have no clue. I just know that I hate these UPC codes. I almost wish I could just have a collection where there's no comics with UPC codes because they're hideous. They really are. This is a great cover. Trag and the Sky Gods. Jumbo Comics, if he doesn't have this, will probably want it. Because Jumbo shares the love for good girl art that all real Americans should have. And I wouldn't give a hoot in hell for an American that doesn't love this cover. I mean, it's got all this girl fighting in the comic. X-ray gogs. It's not X-ray specs here, it's X-ray gogs. X-ray specs. All right, we're getting towards the end of the box, and you're probably wondering, but you haven't shown Turok, Son of Stone. Here's Turok, Son of Stone, who Indians fighting dinosaurs basically is the premise. November '73. Now, May of '65. This is one of the comics that was Valiant Comics in the 90s bought up the rights to several Gold Key heroes. Turok, I think Captain Adam and not Captain Adam. That was Charlton. Dr. Solar, rather. How did I get Captain Adam and Dr. Solar mixed up? They're such completely different names. They bought up Dr. Solar and Magnus Robot Fighters and made modern 90s comics that interest me not at all. Didn't have painted covers like this. They also made video games. So idiots that don't collect comics know Turok from a series of video games. But not Jimmy Dow's, man. Jimmy Dow's, he was there when this comic came out in March of 67. Jimmy Dow's was there. I think the music stopped. It's the day the music died, ladies and gentlemen, August 2nd, 2022. It is March of 65. It's always March of 65 here in Mount Gratu. March of 65, of course, is before I was born. Let's go fix the music. Yeah, see, if you don't appease the YouTube gods, they shut the music off. Because if you don't see, it says video paused, continue watching, and then I have to click yes. Bastards. They want to make sure you're there to see all their commercials. And I was recording too, so now I got a nice little bit of silence in the middle of my recording. Swine. Communist. All right. Let's see. We were looking at Turok Son of Stone, I do believe. I do believe so. Okay, Turok. Turok. Prag. Here's a Gold Key Giant comic. And it is giant. It's really thick. Really thick. It's just not in very good shape. You know, some kid really loved this comic. But a beautiful painted cover. It's from November of 66. Very good vintage. There's all about the Dimetrodon on the back. It's wonderful to sit here on the front porch of the house that I'm sitting on. About an hour ago, an Amish guy came by on these cobblestone roads with his horse and buggy, looking right out of Little House on the Prairie. It's really cool. It looked like just like Michael Landon in Little House on the Prairie. It's cool. I never saw Amish back in Texas. I think they're pretty cool. And when all the shit goes down, it's not gonna bother them much. November 73. This was a childhood copy. I remember buying this. Buying just like it was yesterday. November 73, that would be right before Christmas in my 3rd grade year. This one has no number because it's a Whitman variant. I could open it up, but I can see this UPC code already dates it as an inferior, late 70s and the 35 cent. I mean, not that the painting's inferior, it's just the world became inferior. When did it happen? It seemed like when Gerald Ford became president, comic books started to get weren't as good. And it wasn't just because I was getting older. That's what you'll say. The honker that would not die. They call them honkers, dinosaurs, because I guess they made honking noises. We don't really know what noises dinosaurs made, and we don't really know what color their skin or their hide was. But we can imagine, based on the fact that their descendants are around today, which are birds. And you know, birds go around honking all the time, right? This is February of shit. Oh, that's 1982, because see, it's up to 60 cents. This is a later. It's not really painted. It's they're doing one of these long commercials in the other room. Damn, I hate it. And they're always depressing commercials for St. Jude's Hospital, and they have to ruin my upbeat organ music vibe. This is from April of '82. At this point, Gold Key had given up the ghost, and we're doing these covers that are just not very good. God damn it, the commercial never fucking ends. Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. I'm calling the mother of this mother of a sick kid is crying, and I'm calling her a son of a bitch.